Welcome back, everyone. Oh, I spiked that. Welcome back, everyone, to yet another Tuesday Talks. We're going to be talking about some of the One D&D weapons. We're going to take a quick look at that. If you are enjoying these, please check us out. We record these live on Twitch every other Tuesday when we're not playing our game on the opposite Tuesdays. And then we are releasing them, one every single Tuesday. At least that is the plan. So if you like them, check us out on YouTube, subscribe, and like, share it with some friends. That would be awesome. But let's take a look at the new One D&D Playtest Weapons. So there's a big drop. There's lots of things to look at on here, but I thought the weapons were an interesting thing. Now, this does share some familiarities that I've seen with Pathfinder, at least Pathfinder 2, where some of the weapons have special properties, which, besides some of the other things like moving around, some of the weapon damages, some of the categories of weapons like short swords now a martial weapon, again, not so thrilled with that. Why would you take a 1d6 short sword when you could take a rapier or a long sword or any of the other awesome weapons that you can take, except for maybe the dual wielding issues. But the cool thing is they added some of these special properties. As you can see, they have the mastery properties here. So they've given slow, nick, push, vex, all these things which allow your martial characters to do interesting, like, secondary maneuvers. We're going to take a look at that in just a moment. You do have to have a weapon mastery option, but I know at least it's in fighter and barbarian, because that was showcased here in this particular document. It just takes level 1. So once again, D&D, who said we're trying to make it so that one level dip isn't a huge thing, well, they failed on the cleric so far, and they're failing on the fighter and barbarian. All the more reason to take one level dip if you're multi-classing, to make even like a rogue with some of these weapon masteries makes them even scarier. Lots of builds, I'm sure, would love to have another option to do with their weapons. So let's take a look at the weapon masteries in particular. Only other thing, I guess, of note right off the top quick is that pistol and musket are added onto the martial weapon list. They are, fairly powerful, but when you're looking at it, it's 1 to 2 points of damage on average. A lot more expensive. The ranges aren't as good as some of the other ones. So there's still reasons why you would want to take a look at other things. So, it's looking pretty cool. But once again, it's almost like you went the way of Pathfinder, who had left you guys because you screwed things up. And I guess you're trying to fix it. Maybe this is that, trying to draw people back. I don't know. But anyways, let's take a look at the mastery properties. So we've got cleave, which uses, again, you have to have the heavy property on the weapon. I don't think they're going to give you any cleave options that aren't heavy, so it's almost silly that there's a prerequisite here. But I guess maybe if you're creating your own weapons, this gives you that guideline of what it has to have. So if you hit a creature with a melee attack using this weapon, you make an attack roll with the weapon against the second creature within 5 feet. They take the damage, but not the ability modifier. So it's like giving a heavy weapon that, like, 2-weapon option, except for I guess you have to hit both of them. Which, so you have to hit the first one in order to get the second attack against them. You make an attack roll with the weapon against the second creature, and then you can only do this extra attack once per turn. Could be kind of cool, like once you get to higher levels, and you're getting 2 attacks, if you miss your first attack, then you still have a chance to hit with the second one, and then try to cleave and still get like that 3rd attack in there. Yeah, pretty nice. I mean, it's one of those things, if you're a fighter or a barbarian, you're using these weapons, they're added benefit. Again, they have to be within 5 feet. So depending on your build, depending on your party, depending on your DM, how often you face hordes of creatures that are all going to be on top of you, it may or may not be good. And I think that's going to be said for all of these. So we'll just do kind of a quick looks at some of these. Thank you for joining us in chat. Anyone who's hanging out, we do have Shadow Soldier PR commented that is waiting to see what Dragonheart is all about. And the choices and options in Dragonheart is, of course, the Critical Role role-playing game that they are working on. And I think our first main view of that is going to be Gen Con. So Dave and I were talking about that last night. We're hoping to catch some of their games on the Gen Con Twitch stream and see what that game's all about. Maybe we'll be able to report back some more information once we have that. So moving down the line, we got Flex. So when you hit with a melee attack, you deal its versatile damage, even if you're wielding it with one hand. So that's kind of cool. Like, you got a longsword, and it just says when you hit with a melee attack. So you could have, a longsword and a shield, and you're still, dealing 1d10s for all of your attacks. That's pretty cool. I like that. It does make longswords a little bit more, or those versatile weapons a little bit more viable as an option for players. Like they jump Trident up in damage, which I love the idea of that. It also has versatile. It's a martial weapon now, but I like that there's more options, and these would kind of, at least slightly, say I might want to take this weapon over this weapon because of this special mastery property. Graze is if you miss with a weapon, you can still deal damage to that creature equal to your ability modifier. So if you're attacking with Dex, you have a +5, but you miss the attack, it would still take the 5 damage. But it can't be modified in any other way, so I don't, things like Hex and all those don't work. So it's probably not the best, because you try to build to hit, right? Like, the game's kind of designed for you to be able to deal big amounts of hitting damage. But if you have horrible rolls like I've been having, maybe that's worth it. Maybe it's worth taking a Graze if you've got the horrible, like, Will Wheaton curse of always rolling bad rolls. This would give you that option. Nick, so when you make the extra attack of the light property, you can make it as part of the attack action instead of as a bonus action. Not well written, but I like the idea. So if you are using a light weapon and you make an attack, you can do a secondary attack without having to spend your bonus action. So like if you're using dual wielding sort of thing, which would normally take your bonus action. So for like a rogue, you could have that 2 chances to possibly get in your sneak attack. Once again, you got to do the 1 level dip in something that gives you the mastery, or maybe take a feat that gives you mastery. But I can see that used a lot for those creatures that only get 1 attack. Or even if you're dual wielding a fighter, you make your regular attack, you can do your attack with the light action, you do an extra attack with the light action, that sort of thing. Well, it has to be your attack action, but if you're using like light swords, light weapons, scimitars, things like that, you might just be able to get a bunch of attacks off. Again, once per turn, so even if you're a fighter with 2 attacks, you don't get 2 regular attacks and 2 of these Nick attacks, but you're also increasing So I think there's definitely some combo potential with some of those damage multiplying things, like Hunter's Mark or you know, some of the other weapons that you can use, especially like some of the Gish characters that can cast things. Crusader's Mantle, some of these things would be really cool with the ability to make extra attacks. You don't care that it's a smaller, lighter weapon. You're looking at, I want to hit as many times as I can in a turn to deal all this extra damage with the modifiers more than the rolled damage. Apologize if you guys can hear the weed whacker outside. It's driving me crazy. Push. And again, I'm not going to read out all these prerequisites. A, they're set to the weapon, and B, if you really want, this is all available on the D&D Beyond website under the playtest material. Feel free to check that out on your own. So if you hit a creature with this weapon, you can push the creature up to 10 feet away from you if it is no more than one size larger than you. Always good. Battlefield manipulation, always good. Combo so well with things like spiked growth and all the other things out there. There's so many ways to use forced movement. Comment in chat right now from Bruby. Thank you for joining us, by the way. Should have play tested Twilight Domain Cleric a little bit more. There's some of these things that, it feels like the power levels are off. I think this one D&D playtest in particular, I mean, there's reasons why we are looking for another system to use. Some of these seem like they stated that they kind of wanted to draw back that one level dip, and as we've seen in this playtest material and previous ones, if they don't change things, there's only going to be more one level dip shenanigans going on to gain healing, to gain, masteries. So I could see lots of people doing one level cleric, one level fighter, and then whatever else they want to do for their main concept. Looking at SAP, it says no other properties. That's interesting. If you hit a creature with this weapon, that creature has disadvantage on its next attack roll before the start of your next turn. That's kind of cool. It's one attack roll, but still, against martial characters, I'm just curious what gets SAP. Are we just looking at a mace? And, a Morning Star. So it looks like some of the blunt ones, a flail. Alright, interesting. Not horrible, not the best, but if you're in there trying to give disadvantage and you're not taking a subclass that can cause people to have disadvantage, or even let's say you're taking one like Artificer, the Armorer with the Thunder Gauntlets. I guess it's Thunder Gauntlets, but if you hit them once with that, now they have disadvantage against anything that's not attacking you, and let's say you hit them with a mace, they now have disadvantage on their first attack against you as well. So it's a way to maybe complete that disadvantage, but it's almost counter like what you're trying to go for, because in those tank builds you want them to fight you in particular. Slow. If you hit a creature with this weapon and deal damage to the creature, you can reduce its speed by 10 feet. It only does it once, right? So, yeah. But it could be multiple creatures, slowing them down. Could be good. Topple. Hit a creature with a weapon. Forced to make a con save, which, is usually the best save in the game. You make as far as the monster side of things, not for us. It's awful to make a monster do a con save. On a failed save, the creature has the prone condition. That's awesome, though. Like, prone is such a debilitating thing, especially if you're acting after the monster's initiative. Like, so if your monster goes and then you go, or you hold an action till after the monster goes to hit them with your attack actions, and then you're able to topple them, so then all your allies can kind of just pummel them. note on this too, there is no size restriction, which a lot of the things say you can't push them if they're more than this size, or you can't do this if they're more than one size larger than you. The topple effect does not have that, even though the push does. So it's kind of an interesting thing. You could knock a dragon prone out of the air if you can jump on him and hit him with the topple. Let's look at Vex. If you hit a creature with this weapon and deal damage to the creature, you have advantage on your next attack roll against the creature before the end of your next turn. Hit a creature. At least it goes till your next turn. So it is a way that, like, if you have a way to get advantage, like a familiar or something like that on your first attack, then you have advantage on your next attack, and if you hit that, you'll have advantage on your next attack. You have to keep hitting or that cycle breaks, unless, again, you have something to drop you some sort of advantage on that first attack. It's cool. I haven't delved into the combo abilities of any of these, but some of them definitely up some of those combo potentials, which, again, I think ups. Are we going to multi-class? Hell yeah, you are. You get to do something cool with your weapon. You're going to take an extra dip? What's one level of fighter? Oh, everyone's hated that. I mean, then sure, you'll probably go second level for action surge, but a lot of classes, that's a normal thing anyways. Like, oh, I'm going to play a wizard. Well, 2 levels of fighter make you an even better wizard, as weird as that is, because you can action surge, cast your 2 spells. You get con saving throws if you take it first level. You get armor proficiencies at first level. You're going to get a weapon mastery at first level. So then you go, to be a Gish and you want to do sword and sorcery, you can do that even better now because you're going to have a special property to your weapon. I think some of these stand out more than others, and some of them will stand out better in certain builds. I think all in all, it's a good idea. Like, there's a reason why people liked it in Pathfinder. There's a reason why people will like it here. And I'm cool with that. I like the fact that weapons have some things. Maybe ask for some more so that there's more variance between some of the weapons. Just like, let's see, look at Halberd and Glaive. They're essentially the same weapon, right? Because they're two-handed heavy reach, both. Oh, wait, Glaive gets graze. I see that. I was looking at 2 of the different ones. Okay, Great Axe gets cleaved, that one gets cleaved. So that part's cool. I worried about that because sometimes they do that where it's like, oh, well, these weapons are the same weapon. Longsword gets flex, which allows you to use the versatile damage, I think, right? What else gets flex? The war pick. See, this is where I'm talking about, though. So the longsword, the war pick, and the warhammer are essentially the same weapon. They just deal 3 different types of damage. Okay, at least they do different types, but there's very few things that is immune to one thing or, not the other. Like if they're, most monsters are going to have resistance to non-magical slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning, unless they, if they have it, they're going to have that for all 3. Is what I was trying to say, not so eloquently. So yeah, all in all, I think it's cool. I like the fact that these versatile weapons now, if you have the flex option, they're a little bit better. The downside is, like, this is a quarterstaff and it's versatile. The flex means nothing usually because if you're gonna be a martial character that can get access to these archetypes, so unless there's a feat that you're gonna be taking, then you're not going to be able to utilize it unless you're a fighter, in which case why would you use a D6 weapon when you could use any of these D8 weapons that do it? Some of those things that are like, come on, give us a better reason to use this weapon other than the fact that my character can't use a better one. You know, like be nice if there was a reason why a fighter might want to go quarterstaff. That's all I'm saying. So, yeah, there's plenty more material here in the One D&D playtest. I'm not really going over it all. My thing was just, come on, Wizards. If you're trying to cause people to not necessarily multi-class, why give weapon mastery, which gives you access to these various special abilities for the weapons? Why? Why would you bother? So you could take, they do drop here, the Weapon Master feat, 4th level plus, and you can gain training, which allows you to use the mastery property of one kind of simple or martial weapon of your choice. So it is a feat option, so there's that slight reason why someone might not take 1 level dip of fighter, other than the fact that 1 level dip of fighter is just almost included in most combo multi-class builds out there. So many benefits. Fighting style, second win, weapon mastery. You can second win twice now? Huh. I didn't really look at that yet. I was mainly focusing on the weapons so far. You get 3 different weapons, of which you can then change every night after a rest. Which I guess at least means you're not picking up any random weapon on the ground and being able to use it, but you can choose the types of weapons that you normally would use or normally come across and be set and ready, or have, now you're going to see the fighters like the old school thought of it, where you got like 3 different weapons on them, and you're like, okay, in this case there's multiple weapons, so I'm going to use cleave and I'm going to go through them, or in this case it's really hard to hit this guy, so I'm going to use this glaze weapon, or, you know, whatever. Just, yeah. Cool in general. I'm not sure about the execution for their goals. I'd almost just say either give these to everybody and maybe give fighters and barbarians a little bit better way to utilize them. We'll see. Like I said, I haven't delved too much into the character classes themselves. I just really wanted to look at those weapons and bring that to you today as today's Tuesday Talks. I hope everyone's having a great Tuesday. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next week when these are dropped, and we'll be playing our other campaign when these are going live. So thank you everyone for joining us here live. We are going to be moving on for the day, but I do appreciate you showing up, and have an amazing day, and we will see you guys soon. Bye.